What Bahá'u'lláh has given us is the meaning of being indigenous, and being that, we have an obligation to contribute to the rest of the world from what God has given us. The last prophets or messengers from God that we've had in our midst, they have talked about winter and springtime, and Bahá'u'lláh is the springtime.
There is a story unfolding. A story of humanity's progress through history, propelled by the teachings of messengers of God. Messengers guiding humanity through its stages of development, and now to the dawn of its maturity.
Tia ati tu buti ili nak ti ni tuki tu ni hokpo inu lukta nu na yang nu lukta ta ko ili nak ti nui ga ngata malik tau ninga akik to himayo inu tuki hening nitnu.
Now is the time of Bahá'u'lláh, the messenger of God for this day.
Bahá'u'llah's purpose is to unite all mankind, to bring all races, classes, peoples, different backgrounds to be united.
Bahá'u'lláh è venuto per trasformare l'intero carattere dell'umanità, portare un cambiamento interiore ed esteriore nelle condizioni del mondo.
Bahá'u'llah's teachings are vast in scope, essential in nature. Their central feature is the oneness of humankind, with all its implications for the transformation of those essential relationships that bind peoples and nations, helping them to transcend all forms of prejudice, to advance the equality of women and men, to uplift the downtrodden, and to foster economic justice. These teachings of Bahá'u'lláh represent an end to division and otherness. This is the time for the recognition that all people are one family, for the building of a united world that embraces the diversity of its peoples. It is a new chapter of humanity's story, a chapter that began 200 years ago. Persia, 1817. The world is asleep. It is the hour of dawn on an ordinary day, when an extraordinary child is born to humanity. He will come to be known as Bahá'u'lláh. As a child, Bahá'u'lláh lives a princely life. His father is a distinguished government minister, and his ancestry goes back to the greatest dynasties of Persia. As Bahá'u'lláh grows to young adulthood, he turns his back on a life of luxury and prominence, and instead dedicates himself to helping the poor and the oppressed. Bahá'u'llah's dedication to serving those in need stands in stark contrast with the attitudes among the nobility of the time. Later in life, he would demonstrate the temporary nature of the material world and all its riches by relating a story from his childhood. He describes watching an elaborate puppet show while still a young child during the wedding celebration of his older brother.
Très rapidement, des petits personnages ont commencé à s'animer. Et les petits personnages ont annoncé « Sa Majesté arrive, préparez les sièges ». Finalement, arrive un personnage royal, qui était très majestueux, qui agissait avec beaucoup d'arrogance, très hautain, qui avait un diadème très brillant. Et là, des coups de feu retentirent, les trompettes, tout d'un coup la tente fut enveloppée de fumée. La pièce se termine et 20 minutes après, il y a un homme qui sort du derrière de la tente et qui a une petite boîte sous le bras. Et Bahá'u'lláh l'arrête et lui dit « Mais qu'est-ce que c'est que cette boîte ?» Il lui dit « Toutes les choses que tu as vues, le prince, le roi, les ministres, tout ce que tu as vu est enfermé dans cette boîte. »
Bahá'u'lláh tells this story to help explain the true purpose of our physical existence. Ere long, these outward trappings, these visible treasures, these earthly vanities, these proud and overweening souls, all shall pass into the confines of the grave, as though into that box. It behooveth therefore every man of insight to fix his gaze upon the goal of eternity. (1844). Bahá'u'llah's reputation for kindness and compassion, for insight and wisdom, becomes widespread in his native land. At the same time, a sudden and galvanizing movement begins to spread throughout all of Persia. A young man, known as the Bab, or the Gate, had arisen to awaken humanity and prepare the world for the long-awaited promised one of all ages. Bahá'u'lláh becomes a prominent supporter of his cause. But the Bab's teachings are met with opposition from those in power. The clergy and the government denounce him and relentlessly persecute his followers. Thousands are murdered. (1850). A military square in Tabriz. The Bab himself is executed under dramatic circumstances.
Após a execução do Bab, seus seguidores continuaram a ser perseguidos até que milhares foram massacrados. E Bahá'u'lláh foi levantada uma falsa acusação sobre ele, até que o mandato de prisão foi emitido.
He was arrested. He was chained, he was beaten, he was made to walk barefooted, and then he was put into a dungeon called Siyah-Chal, literally means the black pit.
Bahá'u'lláh had a heavy chain around his neck. The marks the chain left was evident all his life. Well, you look at that tragedy, you look at that, and your heart breaks. People wait for many, many years for the beloved to appear, and then they do this to him. But he was in the same Siyah-Chal that Bahá'u'lláh received inspiration from God, that he is the manifestation of God for today.
During the days I lay in the prison of Tehran, Though the galling weight of the chains and the stench-filled air allowed me but little sleep, still, in those infrequent moments of slumber, I felt as if something flowed from the crown of my head over my breast, even as a mighty torrent that precipitateth itself upon the earth from the summit of a lofty mountain. Baha'u'lláh endures 4 months of intense suffering in the Black Pit. Orders are given that he, along with his family, be banished forever from his homeland. Sick and frail, he crosses the Zagros Mountains in the bitter cold of winter to reach Baghdad. This begins a period of exile that will last the remaining 40 years of his life. For the time being, the truth of his divine mission is kept hidden. A year passes. Baha'u'lláh takes to the wilderness, departing for solitude to the mountains in the region of Kurdistan. There, he immerses himself in meditation and prayer for 2 years. At length, abandoning my home and all that was therein, and renouncing my life and all that pertained thereunto, I retired alone and companionless. I roamed the wilderness of resignation. The birds of the air were my companions, and the beasts of the field my associates. The period is reminiscent of the meditation of Buddha at Bodh Gaya, the 40 days and nights that Jesus spent in the desert, and the retreat of Muhammad to the mountain of Nur. In time, the people in the area become aware of the presence of Baha'u'lláh, and stories of his greatness spread throughout the region.
بەشانازیە و باسیەکەم کە هات بۆ لای ئێمە لەناو ئەم چیا و دۆڵ و ئەشکەوتانە خۆشترین 2 ساڵ لە ژیانی بەسەر برد. چیرۆکێکی سەیرە کە ژیانێکی زۆر سەخت و دژواری هەبێ 2 ساڵی خۆش ئەلم ناوە بەسەر ببات. نەوە دوایینەوە ئەو یادەوەریە لە مێشکی ئەو خەڵکە ماوە تا ئێستا. ئێستاش باسیەکەن ئەڵێن ئەوە ئەشکەوتی بابیە.
Когда же он вернется, конечно, это Багдад будет очень большим праздником для общины. И, конечно же, личность Баха'у'лláh, она очень притягивала всех. Приходили те, кто слышали о нем и хотели с ним беседовать. И многие обращались к Баха'у'лláh за советом.
Баха'у'ллааг Багдадад амьдарч байхад маш олон хүн түүнтэй уулзахаар ирдэг байсан. Тэгээд Баха'у'лláh тэднийг маш их хайраар хүлээж авдаг байсан.
حضرت بهاءالله در مورد اخلاق، در مورد امانت، دیانتداری، امانتداری، صدق و در مورد وحدت و اصول اخلاقی و به خصوص در مورد عدم انتقام و صلح و برابری و دوستی پیام‌ها و اندرس‌هایی دادن.
The life-giving words of Baha'u'llah's revelation flow with miraculous speed and force from his pen. In the course of his life, his writings would make up more than 100 volumes, writings that have now been translated into over 800 languages. During his time in Baghdad, he writes, "Is not the object of every revelation to effect a transformation in the whole character of mankind? A transformation that shall manifest itself both outwardly and inwardly, that shall affect both its inner life and external conditions?" 1863. The influence of Bahá'u'lláh and his teachings continues to infuriate the Persian authorities. At their urging, the Ottoman Sultan exiles him farther still from his native land. Before departing Baghdad, Bahá'u'lláh gathers his companions for 12 days in a garden called Rizwan on the Tigris River. It is here, with his tent pitched along the rose-lined pathways, that Bahá'u'lláh proclaims publicly for the first time that he is the promised messenger of God for this day. In this moment, a new era in human history begins. Everything would change. The magnitude of the transformation called for by Bahá'u'lláh is hinted at in some of the words he speaks regarding these days. That which was hidden is now revealed, and that which was concealed is now come. Bestir yourselves to greet this day, a day whereon the gates of heaven have been flung open, and the clouds of eternity have rained down. His words release a tidal wave of spiritual energy, whose effects will extend across countless generations into the future. Bahá'u'lláh, along with his family and companions, is exiled deep into the Ottoman Empire. First to Istanbul, then Edirne. The authorities hope to eradicate his faith once and for all. But Bahá'u'llah's influence proves unstoppable. Years pass. In 1868, he is banished yet again, this time to a harsh and remote colony on the outskirts of the Ottoman Empire, the prison city of Akka.
L'arrivo di Bahá'u'lláh in Akka è difficile descriverlo. Il caldo, la mancanza di vento. Dalla porta del mare della città prigione furono portati attraverso questi vicoli bui e stretti. Bahá'u'lláh e la sua famiglia furono portati nella prigione, un edificio fatiscente in una condizione miserabile.
他们刚开始请监狱的那个看门员给他们水喝，可是呢，那时候这一些人呢都拒绝了他们，也不要给他们任何的食物、任何的水。给他们的呢，那时候后来他们勉强了给他们一些东西，那个水呢，可是也没有办法让他们喝。很多朋友就在那个时候有3个人就因为那样的状态之下而过世了。
Bahá'u'lláh ki tulis tentang peliritan ilui, ku katih tulisan suci, ki dot kek sanggup, ki pikul, beban rantai ili sangatnya sebab mereka bebas, dunia adil daripada belenggu dunia. Lepas ajine, kek juga sanggup ki jadi orang tawanan, ku katih kubu de kuat sebab bebas manusia dan sanggup kingot cawan penderitaan abadi hinggalah i hampas. So, kita manusia yang sui, riang, gembira.
We have accepted to be abased, O believers in the unity of God, that ye may be exalted, and have suffered manifold afflictions, that ye might prosper and flourish. It is during his exile and imprisonment that Bahá'u'lláh writes letters to the monarchs and rulers of the time, openly proclaiming his station as the messenger of God for this day.
Baha'u'lláh wrote these letters to the kings and rulers of the world during an age of empires. This is a period of time where a few rulers governed most of the world.
Баха'у'лláh призывает этих правителей к чему-то. И очень важно, что это призыв к миру. К миру, а также к тому, чтобы вот эти сильные миры сего не притесняли свои народы.
The message he gave them was that a ruler should listen to their people, they should govern in the interests of the poor, and they should consult in all of their affairs. The principle of consultation is a way of making decisions in a manner that allows individuals to be focused on the pursuit of truth and the good of the whole.
We live in a time when it's becoming increasingly difficult to hide how many people in the world are suffering, like how many injustices, how many challenges humanity is facing. We don't just want to get rid of injustice, we actually want to build justice. When we come together with others to find strategies, solutions, ways to address many of the complex challenges that we face in society, we have to do so in a way that builds unity, in a way that strengthens collaboration, that builds consensus. Baha'u'lláh teaches that the faculty of justice, the faculty of our soul that allows us to distinguish truth from error, allows us to be fair-minded, to treat others in equitable ways, is essential to that process. In fact, justice is the greatest instrument for the establishment of unity.
Uno ahora tiene una visión más amplia de lo que significa la unidad. Y tanto de diferentes culturas, lenguas y etnias, somos los mismos porque somos hermanos de un solo Dios.
The world is in great turmoil, and the minds of its people are in a state of utter confusion. We entreat the Almighty that He may graciously illuminate them with the glory of His justice, and enable them to discover that which will be profitable unto them at all times and under all conditions. Baha'u'lláh spends 9 years confined behind the walls of the prison city of Akka. Over time, the leaders of the city grow to love and admire him. They eventually ignore the Sultan's order and request, even beg, Baha'u'lláh to leave the confines of the city. Finally, he moves to a place outside the city gates, called Bachi.
U zadnjim 12 godina svog života Bahá'u'lláh je živio u Bači. Veliki broj istaknutih ličnosti su ga tamo posjetili. Jedan od njih je bio Edward Granville Brown, koji je bio profesor u univerzitetu u Cambridge. Ta njegova posjeta je na njemu ostavila dubok utisak i on je odlučio da napiše izvještaj o tome.
I found myself in a large apartment. A second or two elapsed ere, with a throb of wonder and awe, I became definitely conscious that the room was not untenanted. In the corner, where the divan met the wall, sat a wondrous and venerable figure. Those piercing eyes seemed to read one's very soul. No need to ask in whose presence I stood, as I bowed myself before one who is the object of a devotion and love which kings might envy. and emperors sigh for in vain. A mild, dignified voice bade me be seated, and then continued. Thou hast come to see a prisoner and an exile. We desire but the good of the world and happiness of the nations, that all nations should become one in faith, and all men as brothers, that the bonds of affection and unity between the sons of men should be strengthened, that differences of race be annulled. What harm is there in this? Yet so it shall be. These fruitless strifes, these ruinous wars shall pass away, and the most great peace shall come. May 1892. After 40 years of suffering and exile on behalf of humanity, Bahá'u'lláh passes away here, in Bahá'í. His resting place, now restored and beautified, is the spiritual heart and a place of pilgrimage for millions of people around the world. People striving daily in their home communities to put Bahá'u'llah's teachings of unity, justice, and equality into practice. There is a story unfolding. It is the story of humanity's encounter with God. An encounter playing out around the world, in villages and neighborhoods, towns and cities, in which every soul is a vital participant. It is an encounter full of promise and illumined by the words of Bahá'u'lláh.
Béni est celui qui préfère son frère à lui-même.
In the garden of thy heart, plant naught but the rose of love.
كلكم أثمار شجرة واحدة وأوراق غصن واحد.
Тэгэхээр дэлхийн ертөнцийн нэг л улс орон хүндрэлтэн төөний иргэд юм гэж одоо хэлсэн байдаг.
Свет единства так могуществен, что может осветить всю землю.
The aim of this wronged one, in sustaining woes and tribulations, in revealing the holy verses, and in demonstrating proofs, hath been naught but to quench the flame of hate and enmity, that the horizon of the hearts of men may be illumined with the light of concord, and attain real peace and tranquility.